Hello, welcome to our webinar on Microsoft Dynamics GP and CRM, what you need to know about cloud hosting options. 3 lines of business: advisory services and traditional business consulting, implementations, optimizations, upgrades of Microsoft Dynamics and Microsoft products, and then ongoing optimization and support for our clients. So, what you need to know. We're going to cover off 4 key questions today. What is the cloud? When to consider the cloud? Where does Endeavour recommend you host Microsoft Dynamics GP or CRM? And how do the costs stack up? So, what is the cloud? The cloud is essentially someone else's server. It's in their data center, it may be on a virtual machine, but it's someone else's, it's rented space. Often combined with IT support services, and there's a variety of financial models, typically around a subscription, sometimes also including a consumption of how much you are using of this borrowed space. 4 general cloud hosting formats: private cloud hosting, which is most dedicated to you, and this is what we're recommending for majority of our GP clients. Public cloud hosting, also a cloud hosting platform. This would be Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS or some other large cloud hosting providers that have more of a shared component. Public applications and their cloud is Microsoft Dynamics 365 for CRM. This is you only see the application, it's via subscription, happens to also be in the Microsoft cloud running on their Azure data centers in the background. Very similar to Office 365 and Exchange Online. You're paying for the service, you only see the application, all of the other components are with it. And hybrid cloud is really a combination thereof for some larger clients where they want some of it on premises, some of it in a cloud, some of it in a private cloud, some of it in a public cloud, and there's a variety of different ways to slice and dice of where your data is sitting in different subscription and SLA models. So, the cloud is someone else's data center. You have Microsoft Dynamics currently on-prem, or maybe you're new to Microsoft Dynamics and you're trying to consider, where do I put my applications? Let's look at when to consider the cloud. When to consider moving to the cloud versus on-prem. You may have had a recent security breach, and this is encouraging you to look at stronger security. Ransomware, cyber attacks, maybe you failed a recent security audit, and you want to leverage the security knowledge of a third-party provider such as Endeavour's cloud hosting providers, rather than building those skills in-house or paying for specific security advisory services for you to fix your internal systems. Number 2, maybe you have a lot of legacy equipment. You put your original implementation in 5-10 years ago. You maybe have old SQL servers, old hardwares. Maybe you had an IT audit and you failed around servers or firewalls or aging hard drives, aging racks. Maybe your air conditioning unit or fire suppression is getting old in your data center. And these are time to consider moving to the cloud to avoid some of those upgrade costs. Maybe a trigger is a lack of IT skills or specific IT turnover. Your main go-to person maybe is left or retired. You need to backfill that knowledge that has left your organization, or the knowledge you have hasn't been brought up to date with the latest and greatest of latest software, latest technologies, and what's needed to run your systems. Maybe there's a pending capital expenditure, looking for upgrades of your IT staff is asking for, or your finance staff is one. We need faster, we need more storage, we need more physical space. Maybe back to some of that legacy equipment, you need a new air conditioner or new racks. There's an opportunity to move from a capital expenditure to a variable cost by moving this all into a rental. You're skipping much of that patchwork or hardware replacement and replacing that with service-based SLAs. Another trigger is maybe there's a renewed focus on risk and disaster recovery. With some of the hurricanes that have hit in southern U.S., floods, ice storms, earthquakes, forest fires, there's a variety of natural disasters that often spurs the thoughts around how do we recover if there is a natural disaster? What risks are we exposed to? And sometimes the cloud is that answer by moving it off to professionals to manage some of those components. And last is data center consolidation. This may be through merger and acquisition activity. Maybe you've brought on some additional components, or maybe you're moving new offices. And you're looking to consolidate data centers. Moving everything to a cloud does create that equal playing field when you have multiple locations and some may be underserved and looking to catch up. So these are all ideas of when to move and when to consider moving to the cloud. Now, obviously, why and where does Endeavour recommend you move? Really, sorry, it all depends on your needs. For some clients, on-premise still makes the most sense, both financially as well as control. They may have the IT staff, the incremental loads of requirements for Microsoft Dynamics, GP or CRM or other applications is not that much more beyond what your current IT staff are already supporting and capable. Others, private cloud may be the best fit, or public cloud, which would be the Microsoft Azure or Amazon or other large providers, may be the best for your options. There are a dozen considerations. Let me go through each one of them that we can help take you through to making that right recommendation for you. Are you using a GP web client for remote access? If you're exposing GP and Microsoft Dynamics out to remote users, there's additional security, additional firewalls. Do you have those in place for your on-premise servers? And if not, the cloud may be a better option for you to leapfrog ahead and leverage some of their enterprise level. Do you looking to move to a software subscription? This is specifically for Microsoft Dynamics 365 for CRM. Their subscription models for CRM are becoming cheaper than the same software licensing that was historically in place. Office 365 and specifically Microsoft Exchange Online within Office 365, again, is far cheaper to be having that in the cloud than it is on-prem, the way that they've worked the licensing and the services and effort put into them. Predictability of costs. Sometimes there are, given risk, hidden time bombs with internal support of on-premise systems. If something goes down, are you sucking resources in for days or weeks to bring stuff back in order? Are you capturing those costs? Are they sunk costs or are they incremental costs? With the cloud and a subscription and a rental, you do have a fairly good predictability of costs. And depending on private versus public cloud, that predictability may waver up and down. And again, these are considerations that we would factor in to make a recommendation for your needs of public versus private cloud or on-premise. What is the knowledge and breadth and capacity of your IT team? As I've alluded to, there's a lot of security knowledge that needs to be put in, as well as just general application maintenance, infrastructure knowledge, and connectivity. As we're getting more and more cloud-based applications that may be ISVs or maybe third-party applications, maybe some of your reporting tools, how are they connected into your Microsoft Dynamics system? And is this something that Endeavour is going to do for you, or are you going to support in-house? And if it is going to be supported in-house, should it be by a cloud provider or your internal IT staff? Maybe your internet and network speeds are lacking, or maybe they've actually become faster and more stable, and therefore you can take advantage of the cloud. One of the caveats for the cloud is you do need a strong, stable internet access to be able to access these remote systems. If you don't have that, if you're in extremely remote locations, internal network is probably going to be the safer and better approach. What kind of level of support are you looking to bundle in when it comes to services, the initial setup, tuning, help desk, after hours, cloud considerations for processing speeds and end user experience. How fast do the systems need to respond for your end users? Are they using the web or desktop clients? And how is their experience? Redundancy often comes in, and that's part of disaster recovery. Disk space storage, considering the type and size and frequency of backups. Are you doing backups? Have you tested your backups? And knowing that you have backups in place, if you're expecting something that may fail or you may have to undo something, how quickly do you need to be able to get back up and running? How quickly do those backups need to be put back in place? Do they need to be put back in minutes or hours? Is a half day okay? Is even a day okay? And there's different costs associated to those and different technologies that can be put in place to make sure you're meeting some of those expectations. Looking at the level of remote access and VPN support for third-party applications for GP for your users for remote desktop access, again, into the Dynamics GP client or Microsoft Dynamics CRM clients and 365 for CRM, and they're nice, great cloud applications. And final consideration, among others, is where is the cloud? Do you need to have Canadian-only clouds, or can it be partially in the U.S.? Were you previously mandated to have all your data in Canada, and therefore you had to be on-premise? However, we do have options for Canadian private clouds, and that overcomes potentially a previous hurdle. So we look at the private cloud, which I've mentioned. We do have some trusted Endeavour providers. They do offer Canadian cloud-only options, and there's fair and consistent pricing. We have posted our pricing and have created a new page on our website. This is for Dynamics GP, for Dynamics CRM hosting. We can talk offline about those options for that. However, we find the majority of new clients using CRM are using the Dynamics 365 for sales, which is a cloud-only version and comes with cloud bundled, and that's one of those application-based clouds. Private cloud versus on-prem. Let's look at the Microsoft private cloud and our experience with our providers. They have cloud-only, Canadian-only options. They are experienced with Microsoft Dynamics GP, and that is key. There are definitely some nuances when it comes to supporting GP on-prem or in the cloud. We want to have the right size of databases, the right processors, the right memory allocation, and the support for the ISVs, the support for VPNs, the Citrix desktop, and remote access. Our providers provide a fair service level agreements with 99.99% uptime, which is actually higher than Azure and Microsoft are able to provide. And with that provides the security and optional privacy compliance, data redundancy, all the power, fire suppression, multiple locations if needed, backups, hot swaps, warm swaps, and 24/7 help desk for the infrastructure. So that would be above and beyond the Endeavour support desk, which are business hours Monday to Friday for GP support. Yes, we have after-hours support for critical issues, but when it comes to the infrastructure of I can't connect or there's a stuck batch, can you please reboot a SQL Server? Those can be done through a 24/7 help desk, which is something that you may be able to do internally on-prem, and I'm sure you waking up some IT guy within your staff, and they're able to dial in and fix what needs to be done, or that can be moved to an offsite data center. So how do costs stack up on-premise versus private cloud? What I'm going to use is the 5 to 10 users with a one-time fee, a flat monthly per user, and we'll compare that to on-premise data. So with the on-premise, and we're looking this back and forth, we're using a variety of fees, looking at the end of it all, and I'm going to move us over to Excel. We're going to have 4 columns we're going to build out to. On-premise fully burdened, which is including all of your IT staff, your infrastructure, hosting, your costs, your real estate. Incremental burden, which is looking at really, I just need a box. I'm not paying for any of the extra uh, incremental components because I already have my own data center. It's just one extra thing. And then looking at the cloud for 5 users, looking at the cloud for 10 users. Really, there's a lot of different risk levels, a lot of different costs related to mitigating those risks. The IT and real estate costs have a large impact. So if we're looking at on-premise and comparing only hardware, on-premise is cheaper. If we're not looking at those sunk costs, if we're not looking at the incremental IT support costs, on-premise will be cheaper. When we factor in the IT services, your real estate costs, the space for your data center, cloud may be a cheaper option for you. And let's look at some of these together. So I'm going to get out of our PowerPoint, move into Excel. Here is how I've built up the components. Each client is going to be different depending on what your needs are, what your IT policies are, how large you're looking. But basically, if we take up some high-level numbers, we have our physical hardware. I need a server with hard drives. It's going to be about 10K. We can maybe advertise that over a 5-year period. We need firewalls. We need security. We need other types of data appliances, whether they be software or hardware. We need initial IT effort to set us up. We need a rack. We need battery backups. Moving down, we have our additional SQL and Citrix licensing. We have some variable infrastructure costs. So if we look at $40 per square foot on your lease times a minimal 4 square feet, and you have a real estate cost for that closet where your server is sitting. There's electric for power to not only power up the servers, but also for air conditioning and cooling the servers. You have VPN software. There may be additional security alarms, fire suppression. These all add in. Adding in administrative staff. Supporting Microsoft Dynamics GP, a safe assumption is going to be a quarter of a full-time staff. It may be 2 different people, each spending part of their time, but there's definitely, pulling together a quarter of a full-time staff. If we assume they have $84,000 fully burdened salary with benefits, maybe they're making $60,000, but plus vacation days, plus this, plus that. Divide that by a quarter, plus we need to send them off into training courses and other components like that. We have a total annual cost of about 35 grand. Divide that by 12, we're in about just under $3,000 per month to support our Microsoft Dynamics. If we look over at just incremental burden to say, you know what, the firewall, it's already there for other IT stuff. I don't need to buy a new one. The rack is just going to be an extra stick. There's already a rack, a cage, a room that are going to support that. These are all sunk costs. I don't need these additional variable. Even electricity, I'm not going to count it. It's not part of my budget. And I need less of a staff. So maybe it's an 1/8 of a full-time admin, and their knowledge and training would have happened anywhere that comes from someone else's budget. Doesn't count. So we bring all that down. Yes, we're basically about half the cost. We're maybe $14,000 per year, looking at the monthly of $1,200 a month. And if we even take out that labor, the 1/8 of a full-time admin, we're even getting cheaper. We're looking at $4,000 per year or monthly of $341. So yes, on-premise appears to be a lot cheaper when you're not factoring in those incremental costs. So now let's look at the cloud. Same row line items, so included. Obviously, you don't have to buy your server. It's a rental. Firewalls are included. Yes, there's a one-time setup fee that we have to incorporate. Again, we can amortize that over 5 years. We sign for a 5-year contract. Maybe we want to look at a 3-year contract, and we can spread that out over a different amount. As I suggested, there's a base $150 per user per month. That's a nice, easy starting point. Yes, we may be able to get slightly better. There may go up a little bit, may go down a little bit. But once we lock that in, with the private cloud, it's going to be consistent over the term. It really comes down to what kind of extra backups you need. Do you have some of the extra software that's in place? Are you bringing your own Office 365 because you need Excel to access the cloud? There are a variety of options. You look at your, so $150 per month times 5 users or times 10 users. We have a monthly fee. VPN is sometimes extra. We pull all those pieces together. You don't need to be paying for the extra knowledge and training. There is additional full service capabilities, which allows people, or includes as part of the full service application monitoring and database monitoring. Otherwise, you just wait for those to accidentally have their issue, someone gets notified, you call Endeavour support, we fix it, or you can have that proactive components. So just because you have the cloud, often you still need some IT staff that are going to be looking at stuff periodically from time to time, and you can either fully move that to the cloud through an additional full service SLA, or that's bundled in, or you let that ride and just the base is included with the infrastructure and security monitoring. So pulling these pieces together, we're looking at for 5 users, you're about $1,000 a month. 10 users, you're about 1,700, and we compare that to the incremental costs of on-premise. We are cheaper moving to the cloud, but if we're looking at just the hardware and not the IT labor, not the infrastructure, then cloud is appearing to be more expensive. We spread this over a 36 month versus a 60 months. Then obviously we're amortizing some of those initial upfront costs slightly differently, and we can moving pieces around. Looking at these numbers, $2,000 per month for private cloud, or $1,200 per month for the private cloud, in comparison to on-premise systems where we're amortizing the hardware over a different period and the labor costs over a different period, that we still have some fair comparisons. If you look at the net difference for $100 a month, are you mitigating additional risks that you may not be capturing if you're looking specifically at the incremental versus the private cloud? So bringing this back to our PowerPoint presentation and looking to wrap off within our half hour. Again, there's different risk levels, there's different costs to mitigating those risks. Each client is different, and this is where some of our discussions will come in. If you're building your own place, you need to be looking at, are there realistic impacts to your IT labor and real estate costs by moving to the cloud? If you move to the cloud, but you're not saving on any of those costs, then that's going to be part of your factors. And to recap, let me do an analogy. Looking at these risks, looking at these costs. The analogy that I've like to use is we need to deliver a package to one of your customers. At a high level, what do you need? I need a driver and I need a truck. What kind of truck? Basically, from a Dynamics GP perspective, I need an IT support person, I need a server. What type of server? What should the capabilities be for them? Do they need fire suppression? Do they need to be quick delivery? Do they need special carrying? Do you need special storage? So if we take this a step further, on-premise, it's your driver, your employee, your trained employee, your trusted employee, and your truck. Your truck may be owned, it may be leased. Maybe you're renting a data center, but it's up to you. It's under your control. You get to hire and fire. You have to worry about utilization of those assets. If we look at the public cloud, that's your Microsoft Azure or your Amazon. You're paying for equivalent of a UPS driver. You get a driver, they have a uniform and a brand, they have a truck, you get a shelf, there's going to be others in that truck. They have many trucks, but it can do what you need to do. You may be an additional cost per kilogram, cost per size, and that's where these consumption fees are coming in with the private cloud. They don't have the same aggressiveness in terms of spreading costs around that you may find in a private cloud. The private cloud providers that Endeavour are recommending, small and mid-sized firms, they have their hired drivers, a hired truck. The truck may be leased or may be owned. You look at the quality of the driver, the quality of the truck. You have influence over them having backup drivers, backup trucks, audit, maintenance, etc. So we can have analogies towards the quality of our IT staff, the quality of the hardware, the quality of the infrastructure. At the end of the day, we need to deliver a package to your customer. At the end of the day, you need to have Microsoft Dynamics GP up and running, stable, and allow your users to access it and move it along. There's a variety of SLA options. Using the truck analogy, does it need to be an armored escort? Do you need, does it need to be a monster truck? Do you need winter tires? Do you want to be able to dip in deeper and say, I want an audit? How often are you inspecting those trucks? How often are you doing oil changes? If you just want the service, public cloud may be fine. You never get access into that. Or you may be able to pay for extra access into that. If you want to see that, some of that could be part of the private SLAs that you would have with your private cloud provider, and Endeavour can work through that. So our half hour is up. Next steps, talk to Endeavour, either Endeavour consultant or reach out to Steve Ewing. We'll help validate which cloud is right for you, provide you with information, help you make your informed decision. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to working with you.